All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Kufya test, the last Daf Yomi.
Oh, Tess.
Good old Tessie, right? We started many months ago, right? 4 months ago, quite the accomplishment for all here.
Okay.
So we'll have our SIEM information, B'ezras Hashem, soon from the Katzstein brothers who are in charge of the SIEM. So we got to the Mishnah on the bottom on Kufya Chesed Beis.
Yeah, I need someone's credit card. I got it covered.
All right, the Mishnah says, "Shtei ginais zo al gav zo." Right, we have two gardens, one on top of the other. Now it's not one on top of the other. Rather, there is one. If you just imagine this, there's two next to each other, and one, let's say, is 5 feet higher than the other one. Okay, and so the way land connects is right. So it's like here, and then there's dirt here, right? So the dirt is actually underneath the upper one,
Right.
but its airspace is in the lower one.
Like
all right.
So it's ours. Two terraced garden.
Right. But they're owned by different people.
Right.
So of course, all of a sudden there's some vegetation that's growing sideways outside the side. Rameir says it belongs to the upper field. And Rabbi Yehuda Shel Tachton, it belongs to the guy in the bottom. So Amar Meir, so says Rameir, Im Yirtzel Yonli Kachas Afaro Ein Kan Yerek. Well, I can prove to you why it should be the upper field. Why? Because if he wants to take his dirt and go home, right? So then there's no garden anymore there. That's his dirt there, right? So then the Yerek will be gone. So Amar Rabbi Yehuda Im Yirtzel Tachton Lamalo says Ginasa Ein Kan Yerek. Well, I can say the same thing, right? The person in the bottom fills his land higher up with more earth, let's say, to even out with the upper neighbor. So then you want to, then there's no plants there anymore. So Rameir, says Rameir, you know what? Ultimately, why do we see where this plant gets its sustenance from? And it gets its sustenance, all right, and it gets it from the upper one. So the belongs to the upper one. And I'm Rabbi Shimon. Listen, guys, don't argue. Right, whatever the guy in the top can reach, that is his. Everything else remains the other guy's. So that's going to be the rule. So if it's a 5 foot, right, terrace or whatever it is, right, if it's 5 foot, so then it'll be some space. If it's 10 feet, right, yeah. So, and we'll soon see the Gemara. We'll point out, have a little thought on that. Zok the Gemara. So Amar Rav Bikaroi Kol Yamalei Pliki Dal Yinavi. When it comes to the roots that are growing inside, so and no one argues that it belongs to the upper one because that's inside the earth here. So keep pliki, but naifon, we're talking about, I guess, the leaves of the vegetation that stick out. Rameir Saver Shadin Fubasa Yikaro. Rameir says you throw the foliage right after where the roots are. It's one thing I corrected or changed, but where the roots where they grow from. No, we do not go ahead and say, wherever the vegetation was, it goes, after where it's, where the roots are. Rather, we say where it's at, and therefore says Rabbi Yehuda, it belongs to the bottom one.
We say that when there's a tree in one person's property that's hanging over, branches are hanging over, that the person whose property is the overhang, he's entitled to the payrolls.
No, no. You know where with the payrolls? It's where it grows. That's where. That's
in terms of.
Let's say, yeah. Let's say the fruit grows in your garden. That's your fruit.
We'll see in
Bava Batra. Somebody else's.
We'll see in Bava Batra. We'll see, but it has to do with Kinyan Chatzar, perhaps. We'll soon see. Or a person's his Chatzar can be kainat on his behalf or not. So let's see. But we are today. We are going to see a similar machlokes.
They had this in the Deer.
But there is another case. The Tanya Hayayitzi Mina Geza Uminashrashim Hare Elishal Balakarka. So let's say a person has land and he sells the tree on the land, and out from the trunk grows some, let's say some branches grow out or shoots, right? Almost like a separate growth comes out from the branch or from the roots. Hare elu shel balakarka. It all comes from the balakarka. Divrei Reb Meir. So that's our opinion of Reb Meir, who says because that's where it gets its sustenance. It gets its sustenance from the ground. Therefore, it belongs to the owner of the ground, which would be similar to our Rabbi Meir in the Mishnah, which says it goes to the upper guy because that's where it's getting its sustenance from. And Rabbi Yehuda Meir, I guess, shel bal ha'ilon. It's going from the trunk because it's in the space of the tree, so therefore it goes to Bala Ilan. I mean, a shrashim, but if it comes from the roots, then shel Bala Karka. Then the sprout comes directly from, it'll go from the Baal HaKarka. We're just turning the page.
Oh,
You go, good morning.
got a coffee today. It's
I
Wednesday.
don't have the themes today, but okay.
Yeah. Which I gave that job to the Katzenstein brothers. They're in charge of planning and the simum. Not necessarily paying. No. Next one's tomorrow. Each day is one daf. Today's Kufi Test of Bamatzia.
Do chocolate and smoke. Dinner for milk.
But Tanan Navi.
Good deal. I'll make it happen.
So time page. Tanan Navi is similar to learning Gabi Orla regarding Orla. Ki I gavna Elon Ayetzim Gazam Shashim. So let's say you have a tree growing out, let's say from another tree. So let's say it's growing out from the trunk of another one or from its roots. So Chayv Orla. It's considered to be a new growth, and therefore the first 3 years it produces fruits. 4 year, right? 3 years, I guess, will be Orla, right? The 4th year, why? Because it gets its sustenance. You go after the sustenance. And Rabbi Huda Omer, Mina Geza, if it's from the trunk, then Pater Min Shashim. Then you're Pater. Why? Because it's growing from part of the tree. The tree already has its own years of Orla, and it might have passed already, and therefore there's no further prohibition of Orla. However, Min Shashim, if it goes to the roots of the ground, then he's Chayiv, then you're Chayiv in that case.
So,
Yes.
how come we don't have a Rabbi Shimon citing these last two cases, but we had him in the Mishnah?
Right. So Rabbi Shimon was the one who came along, and was why did he not say in that one? So let's say the tzricha. Let's say the tzricha in this case, because the tzricha is going to shed a little bit of light on why the need of 2 separate machlokes. One Rabbi Shimon would not apply for. But Rabbi Shimon sort of comes in as a machlokes, and he makes a pshara, right? That's more or less what it seems like. So let's say with tzricha, we need both cases. One case when the guy sells the tree from his land, and also the case of Orla. If we just have the first case, a person sold the tree. So come Rabbi Yehuda, because when it comes to Mammon, so we'll say that Rabbi Yehuda says, okay, you go after it's closer to the tree, so therefore, since it's in that area, we'll go after that. If Gabi Orla, when it comes to Orla, the Surah, where it's Aser, I would say you mother the Red Meir. Now, since it comes from a government Isser, it's not about being machmer who gets to who or making up sharp to 2 people, right? It's Isser Heter. So then maybe in that case, Rabbi Yehuda would say, okay, let's just go Mitzad Aser. Kamash Bani doesn't. And if we just had a case of the Orla, Rabbi Meir, maybe in that case, Rabbi Meir says, you know what, let's treat it as if it grows from the ground, and therefore you give Orla. But in that case, so it's growing from the branch itself, same way Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to money. Therefore, it's tzricha. Therefore, you do need that case. But yes, that was the machlekes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir, right? Not necessarily as Alan pointed out, the shita of Rabbi Shimon coming in and afterwards. And speaking of Rabbi Shimon, anything you can go ahead and grab. So Amar Debe Rabbi Yanai Uguvad Shlo Yanas. As long as he's not overreaching, he's overreaching, super hard to try and go ahead and pull it in, right? He's hanging from his toes. No, that's not the case, because then there'll be claims that the guy took too much. Whatever you can reach in a normal reach. And boy, Rav Anan of Itema, Rabbi Yirmiyah, let's just come our lines. Magil and Naifa v'Magili. Let's say he can reach the leaves, but from the top, but he can't reach the roots where it's growing from, or Magili Kar, or he can reach the roots. But the leaves are Lord, but he can't reach the leaves. So is he allowed to go ahead and take those plants or not? So Gemara leaves it as a takeout. Right, we will stop here. Bez Hashem will have further information regarding a deal.
They have this
A big accomplishment, 4 months, and tomorrow Bez Hashem will start Baba Basra.
The Goyim think if the apple falls in the other yard,
Oh wow.
then it's the other yard.
We finished
With the Jews,
or we can.